The godswood in Winterfell had always felt like a place of peace to Eddard Stark. The red leaves rustled gently, even when the wind was still, and the heart tree's face looked down on him like an old silent friend. Ned came here often when he needed to think, when he needed guidance, or simply when the weight of the world felt too heavy on his shoulders. But this time, something was different. It was late. The kind of night where silence wasn't comforting, but uneasy. Catelyn was asleep, the children tucked away in their beds. He should have been resting too, but something had pulled him from his chambers, a strange feeling in his chest, like he was being ... called. He knelt before the Weirwood, placing his sword gently in front of him. "Old gods," he murmured, "if you still listen to the voices of men, guide me now. For I am bound to ride south to a place where honor is lost, and I fear the wolves will not return." And the wind rose suddenly sharp and cold. The red leaves began to rustle, faster, louder. The face carved into the Weirwood seemed ... different. Its eyes wept sap as always, but the expression felt alive, watching. And then he heard it. A whisper. A boy's voice, trembling, urgent. "Father ... Ned's breath caught in his throat. He looked around quickly. No one was there. Only the wind. "Father ... listen ... please." The voice came again, through the leaves, like it was being carried by the wind itself. "Bran?" Ned said, standing. "Is that you, my son?" "I don't have much time," the voice said. "They killed you, father. They lied. They betrayed you in King's Landing. You never got to come home. You never saw Jon's truth. Everything falls because of your death." Ned stumbled back, his heart racing. "This is madness," he whispered. "What is this sorcery?" "It's me, father. It's Bran. I see it now. I see everything. I single quotes M ... different. I'm part of the trees now, the roots, the past. I don't know how to explain, but you have to listen. You can't trust Littlefinger. You can't trust the Lannisters. Robert will die, and when he does, Joffrey, he's not his son. You'll want to do the right thing, but it will cost you your head." Ned felt the world tilt under his feet. Bran? His boy, his broken little boy who still smiled through the pain. What kind of dream was this? "Bran, if this is a dream, end it. Don't torment me with shadows and riddles." "It's not a dream," the voice said. "I swear it. I saw you kneel. I saw the sword. I saw Arya cry. I saw Sansa beg for mercy. You died for truth, but the world wasn't ready for it." Silence. Only the rustling of red leaves, soft again. The voice had vanished. Just like that, Ned sank to his knees. The cold bit into his bones, but he barely felt it. He stayed there, for what felt like hours, haunted by the voice, Bran's voice, or something pretending to be him. The next morning, his face was pale, his movements slow. Catelyn asked if he was ill. He told her no, but inside, he was torn. How could he explain what he heard? Who would believe him? But something had changed. He couldn't shake it. The warning, the names, Littlefinger, the Lannisters, Robert's death. Was he still to ride to King's Landing? To serve his hand? To walk into a den of lions now knowing he was the prey? 4. The first time in years, Eddard Stark was afraid. But more than that ... he was uncertain. And Eddard Stark had never been a man who second-guessed his duty. Until now, he left Winterfell with heavy steps. Eddard Stark was not a man easily shaken, but something about Bran's voice, if it truly was Bran, clung to his bones like cold mist. He couldn't forget it. Not as the carriage rocked southward, not as the sun rose and fell across the King's Road, and not even as Robert Baratheon's booming laughter tried to fill the silence between them. Robert spoke of tournaments and whores, old battles and younger girls, but Ned barely responded. The words floated past him, dull and distant. He kept thinking, don't trust Littlefinger. Don't trust the Lannisters. Robert will die. He watched. Cersei, then Jaime. Their eyes were always calculating, too calm, too cold. They weren't the careless nobles they pretended to be. Bran had warned him. And if Bran was right, what about Jon? Ned's jaw tightened. You never saw Jon's truth. Even that Bran knew something. About Jon. How? When they arrived in King's Landing, the city stank worse than he remembered. The people cheered Robert's name, but their eyes were hungry, and their hands reached out like beggars. The gold cloaks kept the crowds at bay, but there was no respect in the air. Only fear, only need. Varys met him in the small council chamber first. That sly voice, those twitching fingers. Lord Stark, Varys smiled, the capital welcomes. Your honorable presence. Then came Littlefinger, pettier Baelish, with his mocking smirk and soft-spoken lies. Still brooding, Ned? I heard Winterfell bred colder hearts than their winters. Ned stared at him too long, not because of what he said, but because of what Bran had warned. Don't trust Littlefinger. Thank you for your welcome, Ned said flatly. Careful, Lord Stark, Baelish chuckled. Here, manners matter. More than swords. After the council ended, Ned stood outside alone on the balcony. He looked out over the Red Keep. The last time he stood in this place, it was after Robert's rebellion. He'd fought for peace, for justice, for his sister. Now it felt like he had returned to a nest of snakes. He kept his distance from Littlefinger. He refused his invitations, turned down his information, even when the man acted wounded by the cold shoulder. That alone made Varys raise an eyebrow. You don't seem eager to play the game, my lord, the spymaster said. I came to serve as hand, Ned replied, not to play. Varys smiled thinly. Then I hope the game doesn't play you. But the hardest part came when Jon Arryn's death was brought up again. Ned began digging, slowly, quietly, but with a purpose. He refused to share his thoughts with anyone, not even Ser Barristan, not even Renly. He wrote to Howland Reed. He began tracing old bloodlines in secret. He sent a raven to Maester Luwin back in Winterfell, asking him to recheck the books Jon Arryn had borrowed before he died. He trusted no one. Even Ser Jaime's casual jokes seemed more dangerous now. And the Queen. Cersei's beauty was only skin deep. Ned saw something vicious in her gaze, something patient, like a lion in tall grass. One evening, as he walked past the godswood of the Red Keep, if it could even be called that, he paused. The heart tree here was young, not like the old one in Winterfell, but its red eyes watched just the same. He placed his hand on its bark. Was it truly you, Bran? The wind rustled slightly. A whisper followed. Trust no one, not even the king. Ned jerked his hand away. The voice was softer this time, like an echo. But it was there. If Bran could reach him, even now, through time and leaf and root, then he had no excuse to ignore it. He would uncover the truth, but this time he would not play the fool. He would not show his hand. He would not confront Cersei openly. He would not march in with righteousness. He would wait, watch, collect every piece. And if war was coming, he would not die first. Not this time. It started with the bastards. Jon Arryn had died chasing a secret, and Ned now understood why. The book, the one that Baelish had tried to guide him toward, was real. Lineages, bloodlines, hair color, generations of noble houses recorded with obsessive care. At first, Ned had found it dull, useless even, but now he read it with a different eye. He visited the armorer's boy first, Gendry, the one with the black hair, strong build, and eyes like a storm cloud. Your mother? Ned asked gently. Don't know her, Gendry replied, hammering steel with calm strength. She died when I was little. Looked like me, they say. Ned stared at the boy for a long time. He saw Robert's blood plain as day, the same stubborn brow, the same fire. A true-born Baratheon would look like this, and Joffrey did not. His mind spun as he rode back through the narrow, twisted streets of King's Landing. He now had more than whispers. He had proof. But he held it close to the chest. He didn't run to Robert. He didn't trust Varys or Littlefinger. He didn't even tell Renly. He remembered Bran's voice. You'll want to do the right thing, but it will cost you your head. That was the part that haunted him the most. He sat in the Hand's Tower. That night, with the city lights flickering in the distance. Outside his door, guards he chose himself Northmen stood watch. No Lannisters, no gold cloaks. He poured himself a small glass of wine, barely touching it. He wasn't like Robert. He needed his wits sharp. Catelyn had sent word. Tyrion Lannister had been taken by her, and now she held him at the Eyrie. Ned cursed under his breath. It was too soon. He had hoped to prepare, to play this like a game of Civasse. But the pieces were moving without his hand. He summoned Sir Roderick and sent word to Catelyn. Release Tyrion. Quietly. Let him go. He couldn't allow war to start yet. Not while he was still uncovering the rest. But then came the day. Robert went on the hunt. Ned stood beside him as they prepared the horses. The king was drunk, as usual, laughing with Lancel Lannister and talking about boars and breasts in the same breath. Don't go, Ned said plainly. Robert paused, eyes narrowing. What's this now? You turnin' into my bloody wife? No, Ned said. Just a friend. Robert chuckled but shook his head. I'll be back, Ned, unless the wine kills me first. You keep my kingdom warm. Ned wanted to scream at him, to grab his shoulders and shake the prophecy into him. Bran said you'll die. Don't go. Don't trust the Lannisters. But he said none of it. Even now, after everything, part of Ned couldn't bring himself to seem mad, to speak of tree whispers and voices from a crippled son across time. Who would believe him? Instead, he made one last move. He sent a raven to Stannis Baratheon. The truth of Joffrey is a lie. Come, quietly. Then he began gathering gold, buying loyalty. Not openly, only through the Northmen he trusted, the ones who'd served House Stark for decades. Quiet bribes to the city watch, small favors to the poorer lords. No banners raised, just whispers of something stirring. He wasn't going to die alone this time. Then Robert returned. Wounded. He was. Dying, groaning in pain, poisoned by wine and a boar's tusk. And suddenly it was all happening again. But this time, Ned didn't write down the truth on a fragile piece of parchment. He didn't leave the kingdom in the hands of a child born of incest. He didn't trust anyone to interpret his intentions. He stood over Robert's bed as the king labored to breathe. You ... were always better than me, Robert mumbled. Don't say that. It's true. Too bloody serious, though. The king wheezed, chuckled, then coughed blood. Don't let them ruin it. My kingdom, my children. Ned hesitated. I won't, he said. I'll do what's right. But not the same kind of right as before. This time, his sword would speak before his honor did. The chamber was silent when Robert died. Only the low rasp of breath, the gentle clink of a goblet falling from weak fingers, and the shuffling feet of Maester Pycelle remained. Ned stood. At the foot of the bed, hands clasped tightly behind his back. His face was stone, but his heart raced beneath it. He watched the king die, and for the first time, he let go of blind loyalty. Bran had been right. Robert's death was not a hunting accident. It was arranged. The Lannisters were too careful for coincidence. Lancel had poured the wine, and the boar had done the rest. Cersei was already preparing. She moved like a vulture. Cloaked in gold, she did not grieve. She merely smiled softly, kissed Robert's cold forehead, and whispered something in his dead ear before turning away. Ned said nothing, but when she tried to summon the small council that evening, he acted. First, he sent word to Renly Baratheon, "Come at once. Bring loyal men." He called Sir Barristan Selmy privately and told him the truth. Not the whole truth, but enough. "Joffrey is not Robert's son," Ned said. "You served with honor. I ask only for that now." Barristan's eyes were sad. "I served the Mad King too, Lord Stark. Sometimes honor is not enough to stop blood." Ned nodded. "But it can start something better." And next morning, he rode to the throne room with 6 Stark men and a document sealed with the king's dying hand. Not a will no more parchments. It was a command already in motion, signed before the last breath, not naming Joffrey, not giving Cersei room to twist. Renly met him at the gates with 20 armored knights. He was younger than Ned remembered, still full of charm and fire, but he knew what was happening. And more importantly, he believed, Stannis will claim the throne, not Joffrey, Ned told him. But for now, we must prevent bloodshed. The boy cannot be crowned. "Then we stop it here," Renly said. Together they entered. Cersei was already on the throne steps, her face a perfect mask of calm fury. Joffrey sat atop the iron throne, legs too short to reach the ground, smugness carved into his mouth like it belonged there. "You may kneel, Lord Stark," Cersei said coldly, "or you may die." Ned took 1 step forward. "I will not kneel to a lie." He turned to the room, the nobles, the guards, the lords, the council. Robert Baratheon is dead. He left no heir upon the throne. The boy who sits there is not of his blood. The crown must pass to Stannis Baratheon, his true brother and rightful heir. Gasps, shouts. Steel began to sing from scabbards. The gold cloaks moved, but not toward Ned. He had already spoken with their commander. The coins were given, the promises made. Half of them stood still. The other half turned to Joffrey. Cersei's mouth opened in disbelief. "You think you can buy loyalty?" she spat. "I didn't buy it," Ned said. "I earned it before I ever stepped foot in this city." Joffrey's face twisted in rage. "Kill him." But no one moved. Sir Barristan stepped forward. "The truth cannot be hidden forever, Your Grace. Or should I say, your bastard," the word echoed. Joffrey stood up, drew a dagger, but before he could take 1 step, Renly's knight knocked him down with a mailed fist. Screens rose as Cersei lunged for her son. Sir Jaime drew steel and pointed it at Ned, but he was surrounded. Northmen, Baratheon knights, even a few gold cloaks. The game had shifted. The pieces were no longer Cersei's alone. "Enough," Ned said. "James." Eyes burned, but he lowered his sword. In that moment, a quiet victory took root. Not clean, not bloodless, but a start. That night, Joffrey was imprisoned in the Tower of the Hand. Cersei was confined to her chambers. Sir Jaime was stripped of rank and held under watch. The raven to Dragonstone had already flown. Stannis was coming. But Ned knew this was only the beginning. Whispers would spread, swords would rise, and the real war was yet to begin. But this time, he would not fall with honor. This time, he would rise with truth and steel. The city didn't burn yet, but King's Landing was trembling like a beast with too many riders. One wrong move, and it would tear itself apart. Ned Stark sat in the Tower of the Hand, the window open to the sea breeze. He watched the ships in Blackwater Bay while ravens flew in every direction like frantic crows. Letters to bannermen, letters to lords. The truth, written and stamped with the seal of Winterfell and the sigil of House Baratheon. But the South was not the North. Honor did not win wars here. Timing did. And for all his efforts, Ned was still one step away from total collapse. Renly had stayed at his side barely. Though younger and less serious than Stannis, Renly wanted the throne just as badly. He had whispered to Ned late at night, "Why? Wait for Stannis? He's cold, unloved. I have the city. I have the people. I can take the crown right now with your blessing." But Ned had refused. "If you take the crown while the true heir lives, you'll be no better than Joffrey." Renly hadn't spoken to him again for days. And then the spies arrived. Varys came first, cloaked in shadow, his voice low like silk dipped in poison. "The queen will not stay caged, my lord," he warned. "She has friends still, quiet ones. You have forced the Lannisters into a corner. And you know how lions behave when cornered." Ned didn't answer. He didn't have to. He knew what was coming. Tyrion Lannister had escaped the Eyrie, had already reached the capital. Catelyn had let him go, too late to prevent war, too early to control him. Tywin Lannister would march. It was only a matter of when. So Ned prepared. He called on the smiths of the city, had their forges running day and night, shields painted with the direwolf and the stag, weapons cleaned, blades sharpened. And still, in the dark hours of the night, he returned to the godswood. What passed for it here? He would place his hand on the young heart tree, eyes closed, listening. Sometimes he heard nothing but wind, sometimes ... The whisper returned. "Don't trust Renly. He wants the throne, not justice." Bran again, his voice distant, like echo through stone. Older now, as if every warning took something out of him. "Then who do I trust?" Ned whispered back. "You've told me who not to. What's left?" Silence, just wind in the leaves. By the time Stannis' banner approached Blackwater Bay, the city was divided into factions. Some called for Renly. Some called for Stannis. Some wanted Joffrey restored. And some just a few whispered the impossible. The North should rule itself. The phrase reached Ned's ears by accident. A stable boy said it near a fire. A baker repeated it while selling bread. His own bannerman had mentioned it behind closed doors. Ned dismissed it at first. He was no king. He had no desire to wear a crown. But as chaos crept closer, the words began to stick. The night before Stannis landed, Ned stood in the council chamber, staring at the table that once belonged to Jon Arryn. Renly burst in without knocking. "He's here," the young Baratheon said. "At the gates, with ships, with fire." Ned turned to face him. "Stannis will claim the throne, and I will support him." "You're making a mistake," Renly snapped. "He's not like you. He won't forgive what you've done. You took the city without him. You acted before he could." "I acted to prevent war," Ned said. Renly shook his head. "You acted to hold on to something that's already lost." Then he left. When dawn broke, Stannis entered the Red Keep without battle. Cersei and Joffrey had already been sent to Casterly Rock under heavy guard. Jaime remained captive, though silent as stone. The small folk watched from the streets, eyes wary. Stannis was colder than Ned remembered. Formal, harsh, a fire in his eyes that reminded Ned of another mad ruler long dead. They met in the throne room, just the two of them. "You did my work for me," Stannis said, "but you did it without my command." "I did it to stop bloodshed," Ned replied. "You had no right. I had the truth." Stannis stepped closer. "And what do you think truth gives you? Mercy? Authority? You are not king, Lord Stark. No, Ned said calmly. But neither are you not until the realm accepts it. Stannis narrowed his eyes. Do you intend to challenge me? Ned looked him in the face. No, I intend to watch you rule and see if you deserve it. They stood in silence. Outside, war still loomed. The Riverlands burned. The Lannisters gathered. And the North remembered. Ned had survived the game, but he was beginning to realize winning was not the same as escaping. War crept across Westeros like a storm with no center. Though King's Landing now bent the knee to Stannis Baratheon, no crown ever settled easy. The city was quiet, but it was the silence before a scream. The Lannisters had retreated to Casterly Rock, but not to surrender, only to sharpen their claws. Word reached the capital in whispers and ash. Tywin was raising armies. Jaimi's imprisonment was now a declaration of war. But the North was stirring too. Robb Stark had marched. Not with Stannis, not with Renly, but under the direwolf banner alone. Ned read the Raven's message 3 times. Each word was colder than the last. Father, I ride for the Riverlands. The Lannisters have taken my grandfather. They've burned our bannermen's lands. I will not wait for your permission to defend our family. The North rides with me. Ned dropped the parchment and pressed his hand to his temple. He had tried to prevent this. He had sacrificed his honor once already, swallowed pride, and bent when he should have stood, only so the realm would not burn. And yet here it was, fire from another direction. Robb was too young, too eager, but he was right. Ned sent a raven. That same hour, not to stop him, but to guide him. Strike not for vengeance, but for peace. Take River Run. Free your grandfather, but do not push south. Hold the North. Hold it well. He hoped it wasn't too late. In King's Landing, Stannis wasted no time turning allies into tools. He purged the small council Pycelle gone, Varys under suspicion, even Ser Barristan dismissed. You should have died a hero, Stannis had told the old knight, but you lived too long. The city whispered of red priests and foreign gods. Melisandre of Usshai walked the halls like a shadow. Her red robes trailed firelight. Her eyes never blinked. And she watched Ned Stark too closely. One night she came to his chambers. You are a man of truth, she said softly, but truth is only light when fire burns behind it. You must kneel, Lord Stark, not to a man, but to the Lord of Light. Ned rose from his chair, face hard. I kneel to no flames, and no shadows wearing human faces, she smiled. You will, or your sons will burn. He nearly drew his sword then and there, but she turned and left without another word, her. Footsteps silent. The next day, Ned went to Stannis. I cannot support this madness, he said. You promised justice, not sorcery. Stannis didn't blink. The gods have made their will clear. Then the gods are wrong. For a moment Ned thought he'd gone too far. But Stannis only stared at him. You are loyal, the king said. But loyalty has a price. I will not burn your house for your stubbornness, but neither will I trust you. Ned left the chamber with a storm brewing in his chest. That night he gathered his bannermen, men of the North, men who had followed him south and stood by him. In silence and steel, the game is played, he told them. And we won a battle, but not the war. The king has crowned himself, but not with honor. We will stay until peace is clear. But if the flames rise too high, he paused. We ride home, with or without permission. And still, the godswood whispered, winter is coming, and it won't come from the north this time. Bran's voice again, tired, weak, like each warning cost him something he couldn't spare. Ned knelt by the young heart tree in the red keep and closed his eyes. "Then where?" he asked. "Where does it come from?" But the tree gave no answer this time, just silence. Beyond the city walls, fire was gathering. Renly was gone fled the city with Loras Tyrell, banners and ambitions in hand. Tywin marched from the west, the riverlands burned. And from the far east, across the narrow sea, another storm was coming, one with dragons. But all Ned could do now was protect what remained. Stannis had the throne, Robb had the north, and Ned Stark had the truth and a blade, if truth failed. The sky above King's Landing turned gray in the mornings now, heavy with the promise of storms that never came. People said it was a sign the gods watching, waiting, holding their breath. But Ned Stark knew better. It wasn't the gods. It was war pressing in from every side. Tywin Lannister had broken the Riverlands, ravaged towns, slaughtered bannermen loyal to Tully and Stark, and now word reached the capital. Robb had struck back and struck hard. He'd taken the Whispering. Wood captured Jaime, freed his grandfather from the twins. The young wolf was real. Ned read Robb's message with shaking hands. He had hoped his son would hold, not push. But Robb was no longer just his son. He was a Stark of Winterfell, and the North had begun to look at him like a king. Stannis did not celebrate the news of Jaime's capture. "If your son truly holds the Kingslayer," the king said, "then I expect him to hand him over immediately." "He will not," Ned replied. Stannis leaned back. "Then you'd best remind him of his loyalties." Ned stood his ground. "You may hold the throne, but the North does not kneel so easily anymore." The room fell silent. Melisandre, ever, in the corner, spoke without turning. "Wolves forget the fire until it burns their forests down." Stannis ignored her, but Ned did not. That night he met with his bannermen again, this time not to warn, but to prepare. "We ride north," he said. "Not tomorrow, not next moon, but soon." "We abandon the capital?" Ser Jorah asked, confused. "After all we fought for?" Ned nodded. "We won the city, but we lost the cause. I stayed for honor." "But honor here has been twisted. I will not let my family be pawns again. Not for Baratheons, not for Lannisters, not for kings. And if they try to stop us, and they learn what it means to face wolves." But it wasn't just war he was running from. It was the Red Woman. She watched him like she knew something, like she could see into the past and through him. And soon her whispers turned to action. She began burning statues in the sept, then scrolls from the Grand Master's archives, then a servant girl accused of disloyalty. Each fire burned longer than the last. Ned confronted Stannis once more. "You promised rule, not ruin," he said. "I promised justice," Stannis said. "This is what justice looks like to those who sinned against the realm. And what of your own sins?" Ned growled. "What of your brother's murder? What of the child you let rot in chains? Is your justice so clean?" Stannis's jaw clenched. "Mind your tongue, Lord Stark. I've minded it too long." He left that room knowing he wouldn't return. Again, he sent a final raven to Robb. "Do not march south. Do not seek my release. Do not seek vengeance. Hold the north. Be patient. Our time will come." He packed his things the same night. But the escape would not be quiet. Melisandre saw too much. As they crossed the courtyard to the stables, torches lit up like wildfire. Guards shouted. Horns blew. The flames found them. "Seize the traitor," one voice cried. Ned turned, drawing, his blade not to fight, but to shield his men. "Go," he roared. "Ride. Get back to Winterfell." They scattered. Arrows flew. Screams echoed. But before the red cloaks could reach him, the godswood came alive. The leaves of the small heart trees shimmered like blood in moonlight. A sudden gust of wind tore through the yard, and a voice not Brown's boomed across the stone. Enough. The fire died out in an instant. The guards stumbled backward. Even Melisandre froze, her face twisted in confusion and something close to fear. The heart tree bled faster. A silence fell over the courtyard as if time itself paused. Ned, blade in hand, stood tall. And for the first time since he'd arrived in King's Landing, the city didn't feel like it belonged to anyone. Not to kings, not to lions, not to gods, just to fate. And fate, it seemed, had changed. They left under moonlight, silent as falling snow. Ned rode at the front, gray wind pacing beside him, sent by Robb in secret, teeth bared like he knew this wasn't just an escape, it was war in the making. Behind Ned rode 20 Northmen, all cloaked in furs despite the southern heat. Their eyes were cold, not from fear, from purpose. The red keep shrank behind them like a wound trying to heal. But it wouldn't. Not now. Stannis had declared Ned a traitor. Melisandre had claimed he was cursed. And yet neither dared pursue, not after what happened at the godswood. Even the fire priests were whispering about it, about the voice from the trees, the sudden cold, the way the flames died like snuffed candles. Some said it was the old gods themselves. Some said it was the North. But Ned knew. It was Bran. One final push through the roots of time. One last breath before whatever held his voice was lost forever. Enough, Bran had said. And so Ned left before it became too late for any more chances. They rode hard through the Kingswood, then faster through the Stormlands. Some lords offered them shelter. Most stayed behind their walls. The South still feared the North more, so now that the direwolf flew like a king's banner. At night, Ned sat by the fire, writing, not just letters, but truths. A record of what had happened, of what he had seen, what Robert had truly said, what Cersei had done, what Stannis had become. The letters were sealed and sent in all directions. To the Vale, to River Run, even to Dorne. Let the realm know. Let them all know. Truth. Before. Flame. They reached the neck 3 weeks later. And there, in the marshes where the Crannogman waited like ghosts, Ned finally allowed himself to breathe. Howland Reed met him with tears in his eyes. "You made it," Reed whispered. "Gods be good." "I shouldn't have," Ned said quietly. He looked older now. Not because of the ride, but because something inside him had given out. He had carried too much too long. Secrets, wars, children not his own. But now the lie could die, and the truth could live. The towers of Winterfell came into view 5 days later. The gates opened with a groan. Maester Luwin wept. Arya ran to him and would not let go for half a day. Rickon didn't understand what had happened, but clung to his father's leg anyway. But Robb had changed. He stood at the head of the stairs, like a lord grown in weeks, not years. His face was calm, but his eyes held a storm. "I disobeyed you," Robb said quietly. "I marched. I fought." "You led," Ned interrupted. "You protected our name. That's no sin." They said no more about it. That night, a feast was held in the great hall. No songs, just food, warmth, and the feel of home not yet broken. And after, when all was quiet, Ned walked into the godswood again. The heart tree here was old, wiser, deeper in its silence. He knelt, placed his hand on the bark. "Thank you," he said, "for saving me, for saving them." A gust of wind blew through the red leaves. No voice answered. No whisper came. Just the wind. And for the first time, it felt like peace. Bran never spoke to him again through the tree. But Ned knew why. That last voice, it had cost the boy everything. Whatever. Part of Bran had reached across time. He'd burned it to change the path. The cost had been paid. Winterfell had its lord. The North had its wolves. And for once in his life, Eddard Stark had not died doing the right thing. He had lived for it. But war was still coming. And this time, it would come from all sides. From the west, with lions. From the east, with dragons. And from the south, with fire that no god could tame. But the North remembered, and it would rise, not for kings, but for itself.